Angela Rayner, Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary, has ignited a political firestorm of unprecedented proportions with her bold and controversial new laws targeting Britain's Greenbelt lands. Critics are branding these moves as a full-scale assault on democracy, heritage, and nature itself. At the core of Rayner's sweeping reforms is a plan to bypass local councils entirely, granting the Ministry of Justice direct authority to fast-track construction projects, including massive super prisons on Greenbelt land. This seismic shift in planning laws has sent shockwaves across the nation, pitting Labour against furious residents, conservationists, and community leaders. The scale of Labour's ambitions is staggering. According to reports, the party has already earmarked Greenbelt land larger than the entire county of Surrey for development. The projects include sprawling prisons, housing developments, data centres, and industrial infrastructure. The move marks the largest loosening of planning rules in decades, a step Labour claims is necessary to tackle the housing crisis and modernise Britain's infrastructure. But critics argue that it's a thinly veiled land grab that tramples over local voices, ignores environmental concerns, and prioritises concrete over conservation. One of the most contentious aspects of Rayner's reforms is the introduction of fast-tracked approvals for super prisons. In Lancashire, a super prison capable of housing over 1,500 inmates has already been approved, despite vehement opposition from local residents. Campaigners warn that the influx of prisoners will completely overshadow the village's population, fundamentally altering the community's character. And Lancashire is just the beginning. 3 more super prisons have been approved in rural Leicestershire, Buckinghamshire and Yorkshire, sparking fears that Labour is turning the countryside into a dumping ground for massive infrastructure projects. Labour's Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has staunchly defended the initiative, framing it as a necessary step to prevent future shortages of prison spaces. She claims that previous governments failed to secure land for new prisons, leaving the system on the brink of collapse. However, critics counter that the rushed approval process and lack of local consultation set a dangerous precedent, one that prioritises political expediency over the voices of those directly affected. Rayner's plans don't stop at prisons. Her reforms include redefining what constitutes low-quality Greenbelt land, a move that opens the floodgates for widespread development. Labour has proposed building 100,000 homes annually on previously protected Greenbelt areas, a measure that conservationists argue will have devastating consequences for Britain's natural heritage. Rosie Pearson, co-founder of the Community Planning Alliance, warned that nothing is safe under Labour's new laws. It's housing, data centres, solar farms, prisons. Soon it'll be pylons. This isn't just bulldozing red tape, it's bulldozing through nature and democracy, she said in a fiery statement. The controversy extends to the burgeoning data centre industry, which Rayner has classified as nationally significant infrastructure projects. This designation allows the government to bypass local objections, effectively granting developers carte blanche to build enormous facilities on Greenbelt land. Data centres, with their massive energy and water requirements, are already under scrutiny for their environmental impact. Critics argue that Labour's push to prioritise these projects over community concerns reflects a deeper disregard for the long-term consequences of unchecked development. Adding fuel to the fire, Rayner has also greenlit the demolition of a historic building in central London, brushing aside passionate pleas from conservationists. This decision has only deepened the perception that Labour is willing to sacrifice Britain's cultural and historical heritage in its relentless pursuit of development. For many, this isn't just about policy, it's about values. Labour's willingness to bulldoze both metaphorically and literally has raised questions about the party's priorities and its commitment to the people it claims to serve. Rayner's rhetoric hasn't helped matters. Her declaration that NIMBYs, a term for those who resist local development, will no longer have the upper hand, has alienated swathes of voters who feel their legitimate concerns are being dismissed as obstructionism. By painting opposition as mere selfishness, Labour risks further isolating communities that already feel betrayed by a government they once trusted. The backlash has been swift and severe. In Lancashire, grassroots campaigns are mobilising to fight the super prison, with protests, petitions and community meetings becoming a daily occurrence. Across the country, residents are banding together to resist what they see as an all-out attack on their way of life. For many, this is more than a political battle. It's a fight for the soul of their communities. And as if Labour's Greenbelt War weren't enough, the political landscape is being rocked by an equally explosive development. Nigel Farage is now the bookmakers' favourite to become Britain's next Prime Minister. The Reform UK leader, long considered a political outsider, has experienced a meteoric rise in popularity, overtaking both Tory leader Kemi Badenoch and Labour's own Angela Rayner in betting odds. Farage's resurgence has left the political establishment reeling. His party, Reform UK, has seen a flood of high-profile defections from the Conservatives, including ex-MP Dame Andrea Jenkins and Suella Braverman's husband, Rael. Farage has skillfully leveraged social media to amplify his message, even engaging with Tesla CEO Elon Musk in a widely publicised exchange. Musk, who hinted at making a mega donation to Reform UK, asked Farage about the party's electoral prospects, prompting Farage to highlight the importance of the 2025 local elections. This surge in support comes on the heels of a new poll placing Reform UK at 24%, just 1 point ahead of Labour and 2 points behind the Conservatives. Analysts predict that such momentum could translate into 95 seats in the next general election, a staggering improvement from the party's previous performance. For Farage, this is more than a comeback. It's a vindication of his long-standing populist message. Amid these seismic shifts, the public sector is grappling with a growing crisis over pay. Unions are incensed over proposals for a 2.8% pay increase, which they argue falls far short of what's needed to address the rising cost of living. Teachers, NHS staff and civil servants have all voiced their anger, with the British Medical Association warning of further strikes if the issue isn't resolved. Downing Street insists that pay increases above inflation must be tied to productivity improvements, a stance that has only deepened tensions with unions. The government claims that tough decisions are necessary to address a £22 billion budget deficit inherited from previous administrations. But for public sector workers struggling to make ends meet, these arguments offer little solace. Labour, while critical of the government's handling of the issue, faces its own challenges. Union leaders have called on Sir Keir Starmer to engage in meaningful dialogue about pay and public service reform. The pressure is mounting, with many questioning whether Labour can navigate these turbulent waters without alienating its base. The nation stands at a crossroads. Angela Rayner's Greenbelt gamble, Nigel Farage's stunning rise, and the brewing public sector pay war all point to a country grappling with profound change. The stakes have never been higher, and the next chapter in this unfolding drama promises to be even more explosive. Will Labour weather the storm, or will the backlash mark the beginning of the party's undoing? Will Farage's populist surge reshape Britain's political landscape? One thing is certain, the battle lines have been drawn, and the fight for Britain's future has only just begun.